I'm Rachel Fike, I use she, her pronouns, and I come from a context practicing restorative justice in higher education, and currently I am working on a case in a faith-based setting addressing harm in a boarding school with a restorative framework. I also lecture at the University of Colorado in Boulder.
My name is Chris Poma. I'm the program manager at Recovery Cafe, and I practice restorative practices in the community setting of Recovery Cafe, and how to help our community feel closer together, and also when inevitable harm happens, how do we keep community together and heal together?
When I think about creating space, I think first about just building relationships with participants. And I mean, that looks different with each person, with each setting, but doing everything I can to build trust with the precious time that I have with participants. And so in like the pre-conferencing and in the communication, coming to them with curiosity and coming to them trying to understand what it is they're looking for healing and for accountability, and like following through, doing the follow through in those small moments so that they have some trust that I'll follow through in the times where we bring stakeholders together, whatever that looks like, and understanding too like where their boundaries are and what language respects them, what conditions they feel supported in, and making sure that I'm helping to create those boundaries to make them feel the most safe and the most supported in future processes. So I think like that's just sort of number one default setting is building relationships with them.
I think it's very similar too with, we practice Guideline 1 in the community setting by, starting the day off with announcements and norms. And also something we do I like a lot too is we'll invite the community to, change who says it every day. Recovery Cafe can be a home for a lot of people. And being a home, we tend to let our guard down, and I'd say small things can pop up. So we set the norm and expectation where if something does happen, we try to, jump on it in the moment, but also not like jump on it in the sense of like you're in trouble or something. It's like, let's make this a learning experience. So having lots of circles and creating that space of like that being the norm where, if something bigger does happen, we do really try to have that process be real fast, real smooth. Like we're gonna start this, the end of this week, and to provide lots of pre-care and also post-care, and just keep it a real safe space. We don't want the person to really like have to not be in the community for any extended period of time.
What I've learned from creating space for restorative justice, I think there's a big spectrum of how much space we need to create depending on the harm and depending on the community. And I think there's a degree in every case of people need some education on the process. Very few participants come in knowing exactly what restorative justice is or how it can look. And so I think that varies by participant and situation, but I always try to, demystify the process and take away as many unknowns as I can. Of course, we want the conversation to be authentic and spontaneous, to have a degree of spontaneity between participants. But I also don't want them worrying about all of the things that are typically not the norm in ways that we meet, in most of our everyday lives. And so walking them through like what it will look like and what tools we use. So if we're using a talking piece, explaining what that is and why we use it, and giving them kind of a heads up in the pre-conference and then explaining it again in the conference.
So we have these recovery circles, and it's something where every week, we get together, and this is part of membership of the cafe, is you come together and you have a home group, and it's other peers, other people, who have been through it, and you sit down, we talk about a challenge we've had that week, and success we've had that week, and a goal for the coming up week. And then there's opportunity for like feedback and support from other members in the circle. And you know, in those circles, it's a real like intimate kind of vulnerable process, but you're supported by this group that you've got to really know over the course of weeks or months, even years, and get that support and also encouragement too. Because yeah, a lot of times, you know, people do feel shame about things that have happened in the past, but when your friend over here is like, you know, like, it sounds like you're struggling with that, but I've seen you do so well, and what are some things you're doing to take care of yourself? What are some things you're doing to, if you do feel like you need to make amends there, like how can we support you in that? And it's great too having partners who do more like structured and facilitated conversations, because if it does come to that, it's, you know, it's a phone call away. And I feel like we build up that confidence and that forgiveness in ourselves first before we do that. And that's what those circles really do. Like, how can I forgive myself? And, oh, but I'm also doing these great things, and I got goals, and, you know, I'm crossing my goals off. And if I'm not, my community's like supporting me and keeping me going.
Yeah. It's really cool to hear how that example shows like the power of the process and what the peer interactions do, right? Like to lessen the shame and to create a space of openness where people can talk honestly. And I think that speaks to the effectiveness of the process and how you set up the space where, people are able to I guess like help each other regulate and help each other move into new places together. In a way, some of the challenges can come up with needs that I see, participant needs, which you want to drive the process, and you want to drive any adaptations and different things that you'll do to create the supportive space that people need, right? And I think sometimes when you move too fast, when you're not taking the time to listen to those needs and make space for them to exist and aerate and be vocalized, like, is probably when it's challenging in terms of being the practitioner you need to be for the participants. I know that, so there are things that I think about on the regular, more and more, right, where people are coming in with different identity considerations, some of them visible, some of them not. Again, coming from a place of curiosity and respecting how people want to communicate themselves and giving them space and not making assumptions of what they're going to bring into the circle. Like, we all get to bring ourselves into circle dialogue and into those spaces, but we also get the power to decide how we bring ourselves, right? And decide what parts of ourselves we bring. So I always want to do the best that I can for that. I think that there's also a lot of physical considerations that can be challenging with this, like the Restorative Rainbow Alliance is a really helpful resource for thinking about things like gender-neutral bathrooms. Are those available to people? Or just what language, how do we set people up to communicate, you know, how they want to be addressed in the circle? Or just, having some of those considerations become a part of your everyday processes, or become a part of like a question or space that you'll make in pre-conferencing or something like that. But I think there's also things like physical considerations of, will participants possibly meet before? If it's an in-person dialogue, like, do we have to talk through like where people park, or will they see each other in the lobby, or how are they going to get to their cars after the dialogue? Those kinds of things too can sometimes be like, we get so focused in on what the dialogue will be or how we'll bring people together, and we also need to think about what is that like somatic safety that people that are going to help people engage in their best selves, you know. I think about also the voluntariness of the process. So recently, like, one of the a mistake that I've made recently is there was sort of an email. Email can become dicey quickly, right? But there were some emails about this case in an institutional setting. And there's distrust, and there are various reasons for that distrust. We were sort of walking into it, and I didn't listen to that need well enough. Like, I didn't listen to, like, hey, we need to slow down and we need to just build trust with these participants. And I thought that we could just go to the part of, like, meeting up, right, and talking about the process. And somebody was really pushing back, and I was like, it's a voluntary process. People can choose not to do it if they want to, right? And that was taken as like, well, you don't have to be part of the process. And understandably, like, there was not enough time put into building trust, explaining the process, and listening to the needs of, like, hey, people need more visibility of what the heck it is we're doing and what we're offering. And we also need to maybe just, like, go back to the basics. So long-winded way of
No.
like, I guess there's a lot of challenges to this guideline for me.
Something I learned from a case that I worked on was the need to really tailor, even like from pre-conferencing up through the actual conference, the need to center like the person's comfort and ability with time. We started pre-conferencing, and something I noticed pretty quick was we could, after 30 minutes, it became real uncomfortable and also real hard to stay centered. And so once we started cutting that time down in the pre-conferencing, we were able to really have great dialogues for like about 30 minutes, and we just added a few more. And something, reflecting back, I really wish I would have done is in the actual conference too, is had that been more segmented out into a couple parts, just to honor the person's like need of, not going too long, too hard, and that can look different for everyone. So that's something I learned pretty early on that I really wish I would have implemented in that case.
I think that's a great example of a process adaptation, right? You're still within fidelity of what the process can be and look like, and you're also meeting needs of participants to show up in their best kind of best selves and the way that they, I guess, engage the best. So that's cool.
Yeah, thank you.